those things you can buy to celebrate Pride have led to accusations that companies are being accused of jumping on the LGBTQ plus bandwagon, claiming to show solidarity with the community by rebranding their logos to feature a rainbow, but not necessarily the motivation.
No.
Is being questioned, isn't it? That is, in fact, not necessarily solidarity they're after.
More than ever, consumers are putting pressure on businesses to show support for the community, but should companies be doing more than changing their packaging? Joining us now to discuss this is Shivani Dave, who says that companies are just rainbow washing, and Lee Pitts, who says that the support of any sort opens up the conversation, and that's the most important thing. So, Shivani, let's start with you, because, of course, it's an important part to sort of have the awareness and people talking about these things, but you don't want it just to be about that. You want it to be sort of more integral.
Yeah, I think we can expect more from the corporations and the organisations who are claiming to be supportive of the LGBTQ plus community, but not doing much about it. I would like to see them actually put their money where their mouth is and invest in support and infrastructure for the community. And in doing that, it will benefit their bottom line, but it will actually help the LGBTQ plus employees who are disproportionately affected by mental health struggles and worries of discrimination, etc. at work. But I'm not just talking about organisations doing more for people in the UK, because we do have legal protection to, hopefully prevent discrimination and such like that at work. But what I mean is big conglomerate organisations that operate in multiple countries around the world, putting rainbow logos on their Twitter profile for the UK audience, but not doing anything about the suffering that their staff might experience in different countries. For example, for example, with Mercedes putting a Pride logo in their Twitter bio in the UK, or in the Twitter picture, whatever it is, in the UK, but not doing the same for their social media profiles that operate in Saudi Arabia, for example.
Where they fear perhaps including a rainbow might be seen quite negatively.
Yeah.
So, Lee, is this just rainbow washing? Is this just getting on a bandwagon, but actually at the point where it's not really at risk to them to do so, it's in fact in their financial benefit?
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult because I agree with a lot of what Shivani said, and there are obviously companies. I mean, you go into, like, cafes sometimes and you see, like, a rainbow cookie during Pride Month and you think, oh, that's £3 dearer than the normal cookies or whatever that you've had. And you think you probably are exploiting that a little bit. And it is annoying. Like, I get annoyed of it as a gay man myself. But for me, I just think I would rather a small amount of companies who maybe aren't doing it for the best intentions and maybe are slightly pinkwashing. I think ultimately the more the merrier. Like, I think it opens up the conversation. And for me, there is a cynicalness of, and even after Pride Month, for example, I always feel like Pride Month ends and you can almost see people taking down the bunting left, right and centre, and it's like, we're done now, we've done that for the month, tick. And of course it has to carry on during the year. But I also think during that month, I remember when I was a teenager struggling with my sexuality, if I'd have seen, growing up, I grew up in Grimsby, if I'd have seen pride flags during a month, branded around, whether or not, I wouldn't have known whether or not that was for pure intentions or not. It would have made me feel included and it would have made me feel nice. And it's so nice to see the pride flags branded around.
It's an important point, that, Shivani, isn't it? The start of the conversation is where everything has to begin. And if it does start, whether the intention is there to take advantage of an opportunity, a commercial opportunity, whatever it is, then maybe that starts the momentum building that actually it then will change the attitude within the company.
Yeah, I see that it could be seen as a start of a conversation, but pride is a thing that happens in towns, in cities, in countries, all around the world. It's a global phenomenon that is newsworthy every single time. And I feel like there is conversation. We know that the LGBTQ plus community exists. And if companies are claiming to support the LGBTQ plus community, they actually need to support that community in having a big parade in Pride in London, for example, taking place at the weekend, corporations have to pay to be a part of the parade. In doing that, you get big floats that have nice branding from whichever big organisation it is, and they have music pumping out of speakers. It creates a really nice environment for a party and for a bit of a celebration. But in doing that, we're not celebrating the people in the community. We're celebrating whatever logo it is that is attached to the side of that float. So it's fun, and it does bring the money, and we need the money to be able to have those massive events for sure. But they have enough money. I think we are allowed as consumers and as members of the LGBTQ plus community to ask them for more, to ask them to do better.
Do you take any comfort in the fact that 30, 40 years ago, a logo associated with Pride would have been something unusual for people to be desperate to buy, whereas now the very fact that companies want it on there shows that there's been an emotional change by the whole public, not just that community, into the enjoyment of that time?
I think it's so lovely when you see how far. And I think the main thing to actually really remember about Pride, and so many people go, oh, why do we have Pride? Why do we need Pride? You know, this country is a tolerant country. But I think Pride stands for two reasons. One is the celebration and the party and, you know, celebrating how far we've come. But the other half of Pride, which I think is where Shivani and I totally agree on, is the history and the people that have come before us, the amazing people who fought for the rights that we currently have. And if you look at places like, even recently in America with the abortion laws and things like that, it reminds us how fragile rights that we can kind of feel like we've got and we feel safe that we've had, they can be taken away. And there's also over 70 countries that criminalise LGBTQ plus people. So there's still a way to go. So yes, we have the party, companies get on board, put your flags up, have a laugh, have a party, but don't forget the history of it as well. And I think that's the main thing.
How precious those rights are.
Of course.
Yeah. But the point is, out of the countries that do criminalise LGBTQ plus identities, how many companies that are going to take part in parades and events here in the UK are allowing their workers to work in a hostile place and not providing them with any support? I understand that whichever organisation it is might not be able to, you know, change the laws, but how many of those companies and organisations are funding, you know, anti-LGBTQ plus campaigns? How many of those companies are not providing extra support for their staff in those countries? How many of those companies are asking their LGBTQ plus employees from this country to go to conferences in different countries where it might be unsafe for them to express who they truly are? And I think that is where I want to see companies and organisations actually step up. And if they say that they are allies to the LGBTQ plus community, they need to actually put the work in and put their money where their mouth is. Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. I just think, what's the solution? Do we remain silent if they're not doing that, or do we just... Is it baby steps?
Yeah.
Is it keep pushing?
Yeah.
It's an important discussion. Thank you both for joining us this morning, Shivani.
Yeah.
Really lovely to have you here as well.